Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA. I'm Shivan Chalna.
And I'm Jyotsna Kumar. And on the show today, amid rising tensions with Pakistan, Indian Union Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has said that it is his duty as a minister, along with the armed forces, to give a befitting reply to anyone who dares to cast an evil eye on the country. Meanwhile, Pakistan's military spokesperson alongside Pakistan's Minister for Information has briefed politicians on the current India-Pakistan situation. However, Imran Khan's PTI skipped this briefing. We'll bring you more on that on the show today.
Also on World DNA, US President Donald Trump, while talking about a peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia, has now finally come out in the open, and he said maybe it's not possible to do this. He added that there is tremendous hatred between Russia and Ukraine, and that is hindering the peace talks. This and a lot more lined up for you right here on World DNA. Let's start with the headlines.
मैं आपको आश्वस्त करना चाहता हूं, प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में जैसा आप चाहते हैं वैसा वो कर रहे हैं.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh says India will give a befitting reply to those who dare to attack, assures that what people desire will happen.
The Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf Party of former Prime Minister Imran Khan skips government and military briefing on the situation with India, cites political grievances and demands broader political consultation.
US updates travel advisory for Pakistan, asks people to not visit areas near the India-Pakistan international border and the line of control due to terrorism and potential for armed conflict.
Obviously, we're being challenged. The whole world is being challenged by the Houthis, including in the dastardly attack they did today near Ben Gurion Airport. We will not tolerate it.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vows response to Houthis and their backers, as rebels say they would impose an aerial blockade on Israel by repeatedly targeting its airports.
Iran unveils new ballistic missile Qasim Basir. State media claims the solid fuel missile has a range of 1,200 kilometers and can beat the THAAD and other anti-ballistic systems.
Russian President Vladimir Putin says the need to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine had not arisen and that he hopes it will not. Putin says Russia has the strength and the means to bring the conflict in Ukraine to a logical conclusion.
Donald Trump announces 100% tariff on all movies produced outside the United States, says the US movie industry is dying a very fast death due to other countries offering incentives, calling it a national security threat.
OPEC Plus plans to boost oil production by up to 2.2 million barrels per day by November 2025 as Saudi Arabia cracks down on members exceeding quotas. This comes after a surprise output hike in May despite sluggish demand.
Oscar Piastri extends his lead in Formula One as he completes a hat-trick of victories. The Australian leads a McLaren 1-2 finish in the Miami Grand Prix.
And well, on World DNA, Pakistan continues to violate ceasefire. Today, it conducted firing across sectors along the line of control for the 11th day.
And this comes as fears of a protracted India-Pakistan conflict are raising concerns among regional and global powers. India is preparing its response for a terrorist attack in Kashmir in Pahalgam that killed 26 innocent civilians.
The global powers are urging both the sides to show restraint. Iran has even offered to mediate between India and Pakistan, referring to the centuries-old ties between the two countries.
While Islamabad has welcomed Tehran's offer, New Delhi has not commented. India has always maintained that its problems with Pakistan are bilateral. Iran's offer came as Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi reached Pakistan on a day-long visit.
Now, Araghchi will meet his Pakistani counterpart, Ishaq Dar, later in the day. And both the leaders are expected to hold talks on current regional situation, particularly on the tensions between India and Pakistan. After Islamabad, Araghchi is scheduled to visit New Delhi, making him the first foreign dignitary to visit to both Islamabad and New Delhi since the Pahalgam attack. He will hold meetings with India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. Now, New Delhi has said Araghchi's visit was planned long before the Pahalgam attack.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has expressed his concerns over the rising tensions, urging the two sides to show restraint. Lavrov held a phone call with Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar. The Russian minister had expressed similar sentiments when he spoke with his Indian counterpart, Dr. S. Jaishankar, last Friday.
The Pakistan government and military held a briefing for political parties in the context of the current security situation. Information Minister Ataullah Tarar and Army spokesperson Lieutenant General Ahmed Sharif briefed leaders of political parties on tensions between Pakistan and India.
However, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf of jailed former Premier Imran Khan skipped this briefing. The opposition party did not attend the meeting, claiming that there appeared to be no serious attempt to build a national consensus. It also called for Khan to be included in the discussions.
Meanwhile, Pakistan has requested a closed-door meet of the UN Security Council on situation on Kashmir today, where it will brief the Council on the latest regional developments.
Meanwhile, a Turkish naval ship, an ADA-class ASW corvette, arrived at the Karachi port. While the visit has been termed as a goodwill visit by the Pakistani Navy, the timing has raised questions.
In India, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has vowed that India will give a befitting reply to those who dare to attack the country. Listen in.
साथियों, एक रक्षा मंत्री के रूप में मेरा दायित्व है कि मैं अपने सैनिकों के साथ मिलकर देश की सीमाओं की सुरक्षा सुनिश्चित करूं और मेरा यह दायित्व है कि अपनी सेना के साथ मिलकर देश के ऊपर आंख उठाने वालों को मुंहतोड़ जवाब दूं.
The Defence Minister of India will host his Japanese counterpart, Jen Nakatani, for wide-ranging talks today. The meeting comes against the backdrop of rising tensions between India and Pakistan, as well as China's persistent muscle flexing in the South China Sea. The Indian government has intensified its security response following the Pahalgam terror attack that killed 26 civilians.
A series of high-level meetings and military exercises were held yesterday. As the defense minister, this is what he said: "My responsibility to ensure the security of the country's borders along with my soldiers. It is my responsibility to give a befitting reply." Listen to this.
In a flurry of high-level meetings, Air Chief Marshal Amarpreet Singh met Prime Minister Modi, and this comes just a day after India's Navy Chief Admiral Dinesh K. Tripathi held an hour-long meeting with the Prime Minister at the Prime Minister's residence in New Delhi. Earlier, the Prime Minister chaired a crucial security meeting attended by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan, all three service chiefs and NSA Ajit Doval.
The government has vowed to deliver a crushing blow to terrorism, giving complete operational freedom to the armed forces.
The Indian Air Force conducted a major fly-past and landing drill on the Ganga Expressway in Uttar Pradesh on Friday. Fighter jets such as Rafale, MiG-29, Mirage 2000 and others, they practiced landing at India's first ever night landing strip built on the Ganga Expressway in Shahjahanpur. The 3.5-kilometer long airstrip is capable of both day and nighttime landings of Air Force jets. It allows round-the-clock military operations, assessing the expressway's viability as an alternative runway during emergencies. Previously, similar exercises on the Lucknow-Agra and Purvanchal expressways occurred only during daylight. As India prepares for a possible response, Pakistan has shifted air radars and military installations closer to the border.
Now, the Indian Navy has begun live firing drills in the Arabian Sea from 3rd to 7th of May to test combat readiness and equipment. Now, warships are on high alert across the exclusive economic zone, with multiple anti-ship and anti-aircraft firings recently conducted. The Navy issued 4 green notifications for a live fire off the Gujarat coast, just 85 nautical miles from the Pakistan's ongoing naval drills. Indian Coast Guard vessels have been deployed in forward areas near the international maritime boundary. Commercial ships in the region have been advised to exercise caution. And shifting our focus now, U.S. President Donald Trump has cast his apprehensions about brokering peace between Russia and Ukraine.
And this is despite claiming that he would end the war within days of his second term, 24 hours to be exact, as this is what Trump was saying all through his election campaign. Now, Trump now says that he believes that a U.S. brokered permanent ceasefire after the 3 years of fighting between Russia and Ukraine may just be out of reach.
Now, in an exclusive conversation with NBC Media, U.S. President said maybe it's not possible. He cited the tremendous hatred between the two sides as the reason. Listen in.
Kristen, we're talking tremendous hatred between these two men and between, some of the soldiers, frankly, between the generals. They've been fighting hard for 3 years.
Ukrainian President Zelensky has said that he does not believe Russia would adhere to a 3-day truce. Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered the temporary ceasefire during commemorations for the anniversary of the end of World War II in Europe, saying it would test Kiev's readiness for a long-term ceasefire.
However, during a news conference with Czech President Petr Pavel, Zelensky claimed Russia has carried out more than 200 attacks in a single day on Saturday, adding that there was no faith in the country. Zelensky said that unless increased pressure were applied, Kremlin leader Vladimir Putin would take no real steps to end the conflict.
We believe that ceasefire is possible at any moment, even starting today, and should last for at least 30 days to give diplomacy a real chance.
In a statement issued later, Zelensky summarized his meeting with Pavel. He said discussions were underway for a Ukrainian-Czech pilot training school for American F-16 jets, which could not be established in Ukraine due to the security concerns. Meanwhile, reports suggest that the US is planning to send advanced air defense systems to Ukraine.
Now, this comes days after the signing of a minerals deal. Sources quoted in the report say one Patriot system will be moved from Israel after undergoing refurbishment, while a second system could be sent by Germany or Greece.
Amid this, in an interview, Putin said he hopes he would not have to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. The Russian president highlighted that how he was ready to use nuclear warfare in November last year after Ukraine struck Russia with Western missiles for the first time deep inside Russian territory. Putin had back then signed a revamped version of the nation's doctrine, the nuclear doctrine of Russia, allowing Moscow to launch a nuke in response to a broader range of attacks, as well as labeling nations that arm the Kremlin's enemy as possible targets. And Iran has unveiled a new ballistic missile, Qasim Basir, which it claims can bypass the US THAAD anti-ballistic defense system.
The footage released by the Iranian state TV showed the missile being test-fired at an unknown location. Iran claims that the missile has a range of up to 1,300 kilometers. Now, speaking to Iranian state TV after unveiling the ballistic missile, Defense Minister Nasir-Zadeh warned that Tehran will hit U.S. bases in the region if a war is imposed on Iran.
If we are attacked, if a war is imposed on us, we will give a powerful response. We will attack their interests, their bases, without any reservations or limitations. We have no hostility towards neighboring countries. They are our brothers, but American bases are our targets.
Amidst rising tensions and a delay in the next round of talks, US President Donald Trump has said that the goal of the negotiations with Iran is to achieve the full dismantlement of Tehran's nuclear program. The statement assumes significance as it is the first time that Trump has outlined the ambitious goal since nuclear talks began with Iran. However, Trump also added here that he is open to hearing arguments in favor of Iran having a civilian nuclear program, an idea that is reportedly supported by Secretary of State Marco Rubio as well.
Meanwhile, Iran-backed Houthi rebels reported around 10 strikes in and around capital Sana'a. According to the Houthi Health Ministry, at least 14 people were wounded in the American strikes. The American strikes comes a day after a missile launched by Yemen's Houthis struck Israel's Ben Gurion International Airport. The rebel group has now pledged fresh strikes on Israeli airports. In a video statement, a Houthi military spokesperson, Yahya Saraya, warned that the rebel group would repeatedly target the Ben Gurion airport and will impose a comprehensive air blockade. Saraya also warned airlines to cancel all scheduled flights to the Ben Gurion airport.
The Yemeni armed forces announced that they will work to impose a comprehensive air blockade on the Israeli enemy by repeatedly targeting airports, most notably Lod Airport, known in Israel as Ben Gurion Airport.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to respond to the Houthis and the Houthis' patron Iran for the missile attack on the Ben Gurion airport. Speaking alongside Cyprus, President Netanyahu warned that Israel will take strong actions and will give Iran a due warning.
As far as the trade routes, obviously we're being challenged. The whole world is being challenged by the Houthis, including in the dastardly attack they did today near Ben Gurion Airport. We will not tolerate it.
And responding to Netanyahu's threat, Iran's defense minister Aziz Nasir-Zadeh said that Tehran will strike back if attacked by US or Israel. In an interview to Iranian state TV, Nasir-Zadeh warned that Iran will target Israeli and American interests wherever they may be. And while carrying out counter-terrorism operations, the UK police has arrested 8 men in 2 separate operations.
Well, the arrests include 7 Iranian nationals who were allegedly plotting an attack on an unspecified target in London. The suspects are not charged yet, but are being questioned at police stations. The UK police has still not determined if the alleged plot is connected to the Iranian regime, but Britain's Domestic Intelligence Service has warned of a growing threat from attackers linked to Tehran. The Embassy of Iran in London is yet to comment on the arrests.
According to the London Metropolitan Police, the arrests were carried out in London, Swindon and the Greater Manchester area. The men are aged from 29 to 46, while the nationality of one of them is still being established. According to authorities, the investigation is still in its early stages.
And in Romania, far-right leader George Simion is set to secure a decisive win in the first round of Romania's presidential election.
And this comes months after an early election was annulled by a court citing foreign interference, sending the country in its worst political crisis in decades.
38-year-old Simion is the leader of the Alliance for the Unity of Romanians, or AUR. The official electoral data showed that Simion was outpacing all other candidates in the polls with 40.1% vote share after 90% of the votes were counted.
Far behind in second place was the governing coalition's joint candidate, Crin Antonescu, with 21.1%, while pro-EU candidate and Bucharest mayor, Nicu Dan, stood at third with 19.4%. Votes, although, that gap is widely expected to narrow as votes from larger cities are counted.
After taking a comfortable lead in the first round of elections, Simeon addressed his supporters in a video message at his party's headquarters, saying that Romanian people had created history. He added that he would begin a moral, political and economic reconstruction of Romania. Simeon also slammed his opponents and said that Romanian people had won despite the obstacles and the manipulation.
Together we made history today. We are approaching an exceptional result. Congratulations! You are the winners. Today, the Romanian people have voted. Today, the Romanian people have spoken. It is time to make our voices heard. Despite the obstacles, despite the manipulation, despite a press paid to belittle us day after day, the Romanian people have risen up.
And according to the Central Election Bureau, about 9.57 million people, and that's about 53.2% of eligible voters, had cast their ballots by the time polls closed, while 973,000 votes were cast at polling stations set up in other countries.
George Simeon will now face pro-EU Bucharest mayor Nicu Dan in the May 18th runoff. The election redo was allowed after Romania's political landscape was shaken last year when a top court voided the previous election in which the far-right independent Calin Georgescu topped the first round following allegations of electoral violations and Russian interference, which Moscow denied.
Now, Georgescu was barred from the rerun after authorities noted a massive TikTok campaign that led to violent protests. He was later replaced by George Simeon, a fan of Donald Trump, often seen wearing a cap with the U.S. president's slogan, "Make America Great Again."
And the countdown to elect the next head of the Catholic Church has, of course, begun.
The cardinals from across the globe have gathered in Vatican City and held final mass ahead of entering the conclave that will choose Pope Francis's successor.
In a solemn Sunday Mass inside St. Peter's Basilica, the cardinals offered the final Novendial Mass, a centuries-old tradition in amongst Catholics, held for 9 days to honor the passing of a pope. The Mass marks the end of the mourning period and the beginning of the process to elect a new leader.
Now, behind closed doors, the cardinals have begun general congressions, private meetings to debate the direction of the church and the challenges that the next pontiff must confront. From the 7th of May, 133 cardinals eligible to vote under the age of 80 will enter the Sistine Chapel to cast their ballots in secret to choose a successor to Pope Francis.
135 cardinals will secretly vote to decide on the next head of the 1.4 billion member church. As a first step, cardinals will gather behind the closed doors of the Sistine Chapel, where the voting will take place. A two-thirds majority is a must to elect a new pope, and voting continues until this threshold is met. Randomly selected cardinals oversee the votes cast via secret ballots. After each round, the ballots are burned with chemicals producing either black or white smoke, signaling the outcome of the vote.
Now, black smoke represents that no decision has been made, while the white smoke means a new pope has been elected. Once the pope is chosen, a top cardinal formally announces, "Habemus Papam," we have a pope from St. Peter's Basilica. Now, what's interesting is that this process can take hours or even days.
All right, viewers, time now for a quick break.
But don't go anywhere. On the other side of World DNA, we'll bring you more now on India that has unleashed a second wave of diplomatic and strategic measures against Pakistan by curbing the flow of water from the Chenab River. More updates on the other side.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
Technology redefines our future. Empower yourself with cutting-edge innovation. Discover, secure, dominate. Turn your assets into powerful tools. Enter the era of tokenization. Token Money Magnet by Kalp Decentra Foundation, the first of its kind. Learn, master, transform with every episode. Led by pioneers of the industry. Grab this moment to unlock the tokenization revolution.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with Jyotsna and I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss on this side of the show as well. Let's start with the headlines.
Indian forces respond after Pakistan violates ceasefire for the 11th straight day in Jammu and Kashmir, resorts to unprovoked firing across the line of control in various sectors.
Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi arrives in Pakistan on a day-long visit ahead of his trip to New Delhi. Araghchi is the first foreign leader to visit both countries since the Pahalgam terror attack.
India's Supreme Court to hear a batch of pleas challenging the new Waqf law today, weeks after the government paused two central aspects of the contentious law.
Obviously, we're being challenged. The whole world is being challenged by the Houthis, including in the dastardly attack they did today near Ben Gurion Airport. We will not tolerate it.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vows response to the Houthis and their backers as rebels say they would impose an aerial blockade on Israel by repeatedly targeting Israel's airports.
Iran unveils new ballistic missile Qasem Basir. State media claims the solid fuel missile has a range of 1,200 kilometers and can be THAAD and other anti-ballistic missiles.
Russian President Vladimir Putin says the need to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine had not arisen and that he hopes it will not arise in future. Putin says Russia has the strength and the means to bring this conflict in Ukraine to a logical conclusion.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he is directing the Bureau of Prisons to rebuild and reopen the Alcatraz prison to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders. Alcatraz once housed notorious U.S. criminals before it closed in 1963.
Donald Trump announces 100% tariff on all movies produced outside the United States, says the US movie industry is dying a very fast death due to other countries offering incentives, calling it a national security threat.
The US dollar wavered despite easing recession fears as investors await concrete progress on US-China trade. Strong March jobs data dampen hopes for a Fed rate cut in June.
Oscar Piastri extends his lead in Formula One by completing a hat-trick of victories. The Australian leads a McLaren 1-2 finish in the Miami Grand Prix.
And well, in breaking news just coming in, Indian forces are responding after Pakistan violated ceasefire for the 11th straight day in Jammu and Kashmir today.
As per the Indian Army, Pakistan resorted to firing across the line of control in various sectors. The violation has drawn a strong and effective response from the Indian Army. And this marks the 11th consecutive day, as we mentioned earlier, of cross-border firing and ceasefire violations amid escalating tensions between the two countries following the April 22nd terror attack in Pahalgam.
Now, that was the attack where 26 civilians were killed and most of them were terrorists. Now, since the night of April 24, just hours after India suspended the Indus Waters Treaty following the Pahalgam terror attack, Pakistani troops have been resorting to unprovoked firing at various places along the LOC.
All right, joining us live is our special correspondent Idris Sloan. Idris, 11th straight night. It's clearly a daily affair now of the ceasefire violations across the LOC, and the American side has also issued a travel advisory now not to go near the borders between the two countries. Give us more.
Well, absolutely, Shivin. Pakistan Army has yet again on the 11th night resorted to unprovoked smaller arms fire across the line of control. Let me tell you, the ceasefire has happened in Kupwara, Baramulla in northern part of Kashmir, while as in the Jammu division, it has happened in Poonch, Rajouri, Mainder, Naushera, Sundarbani and Akhnur. It has been retaliated as usual by the Indian Army, but we've seen over the last 11 days there have been unprovoked firing incidents from across the border, which are basically not restricted to one or two areas, but all across the line of control. And at the same time, what we've seen, it happens during the night. From the last 11 consecutive nights, it's been happening, and not at one place, but different places across northern part of Kashmir, as well as in the Jammu division. There was, when the ceasefire was basically signed and renewed by both the countries in 2021, after that, we've seen peace, especially for at least 4 years on the line of control. Both the armies had basically adhered to the ceasefire, while as the people who were living very close to the line of control were living really a sigh of relief for them for many, many years. But since the last 11 days, the firing that has been taking place from the Pakistani side, especially for the people who are living very close to the line of control, has become extremely hell for them to live very close to the line of control. They have started clearing their individual bunkers, and some of the families still haven't harvested their crops, and that's one of the reasons they're not leaving from there. But they've been advised to be cautious while doing so, because we've seen the firing, especially the ceasefire violations, are happening during the night. So one thing is that the people are not out at that point of time, but if these ceasefire violations were happening during the day, then the people who live very close to the line of control would have been shifted from those areas to the safer places.
Yes.
On the other hand, line of control as well as the international border remain on high alert. We've seen there was an infiltration attempt last week in the northern part of Kashmir, and also we've seen how border security forces and Punjab police together have foiled 2 operations. In one, they busted a hideout in which they recovered arms and ammunition, and there's also 2 people were arrested for basically spying for the Pakistan intelligence services.
Yes. These are developments happening on a daily basis. Idris, thanks so much for getting us the latest. We will be tracking all the developments coming in as tensions only mount between India and Pakistan. And the escalating India-Pakistan tensions in the wake of the Pahalgam terror attack have put the spotlight on the Pakistani Army Chief Asim Munir.
Now, in great part owing to the notoriously provocative speeches that Munir has made before the terror attack in India's Jammu and Kashmir, analysts point out that the Pakistani Army's chief remarks clearly mark him as a religious zealot.
Significantly, Munir was the chief of the Pakistani ISI in February 2019. Remember, viewers, that is the month when the deadly Pulwama attack also took place. At the time, the Pulwama terror attack that killed 40 Indian security personnel. The Indian forces responded to that attack with the Balakot airstrikes, and reports suggest a committee led by Asim Munir strongly advised Pakistan's civil military leadership at the time to respond against India after that. And Munir was, however, removed just months after that incident in June of 2019.
Now, Munir ending up with the shortest stint of just 8 months for any ISI chief when Imran Khan was the Prime Minister, while the Pakistani Army chief alleged he was removed for trying to investigate corruption charges against the former Prime Minister's wife. Imran Khan has repeatedly accused Munir of harboring a personal grudge against him and even plotting to kill him. And since then, with Imran Khan's prolonged imprisonment and also the PTI not being allowed to contest as a party in the 2024 general elections, the Pakistani Army's standing with the public has not only been dented, but it has also been divided in pro and anti-Imran factions.
Given the intensifying insurgency in Balochistan, Munir's recent statements are seen as attempts to generate support for Pakistan and the Pakistani army. Fighting overtly and covertly has been the Pakistan army's response to its relations with India. Munir is only echoing this line in terms as belligerent and provocative as they can get.
And well, just over 10 days after the deadly terror attack in Pahalgam that killed 26 innocent civilians, India unleashed a second wave of diplomatic and strategic measures against Pakistan.
Measures range from blocking trade to restricting water flow. According to a report published in Indian Express, India has curbed the flow of water from the Baglihar Dam, a hydropower project built on the Chenab River in Jammu and Kashmir's Ramban district. The dam, perched on one of the western rivers under the Indus Waters Treaty, it is being used as a tool for short-term punitive action against Pakistan.
Now, officials say the gates of the spillway have been lowered to reduce water flow towards Pakistan's Punjab region. Now, that depends heavily on the Chenab to irrigate its farmlands. The report also cites government sources saying the move could be followed by similar action at the Kishanganga Dam on the Jhelum River.
And this comes a day after India blocked all categories of mail and parcels from Pakistan, and they banned docking of Pakistani flagged ships at Indian ports. In response, Pakistan also took reciprocal actions. Indian ships too have been ordered to stay away from Pakistani waters.
Meanwhile, Pakistan's test firing of a surface-to-surface missile has sparked angry reactions in New Delhi. The Abdali missile, with a range of 450 kilometers, was tested as part of a military exercise Indus at the Sonmeani ranges.
India has called it a reckless act of provocation. And over to India's east, Muhammad Yunus government in Bangladesh is once again drawing flack over reported suppression of press freedom in the country.
A report published by a right group on World Press Day claims 640 journalists had been targeted in the first 8 months of the interim government from August 2024 to March 2025.
Now, as per the report by rights analysis groups, criminal cases have been filed against 182 journalists, acts of violence committed against 206 journalists. There has been reported denial of accreditation to 167 journalists, and inquiries have been initiated against 85 senior journalists by the Bangladesh Financial Intelligence Unit, the anti-terror and anti-money laundering unit of the government of Bangladesh as well.
Now, the report goes on to claim that no critical reporting on the interim government or the Awami League can be done. It adds that the interim government has given absolute impunity to the non-state actors to attack on the media.
Detailing the incidents and cases registered, the report claims after the fall of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina on the 5th of August last year, the interim government which unleashed attacks on journalists, including through registration of false cases.
All right. Well, when you think of Austria, you think of classical music, mountains, and chocolate.
But few sweets represent the country quite like the Mozartkugel, a rich round ball of marzipan, pistachio, and nougat wrapped in foil bearing the face of legendary composer. But behind the shiny wrapper is a growing debate.
While local artisans in Vienna and Salzburg still handcraft these iconic treats using century-old techniques, global confectioneries giants have taken a different route, prioritizing mass production over tradition, much to the dismay of Austrians. U.S. food giant Mondelez recently moved the production of its popular Mirabelle Mozartkugeln from Salzburg to an undisclosed location in Eastern Europe, ending decades of local manufacture of the chocolate.
Traditional makers like Leschanz in Vienna and the Furest family in Salzburg created the original in 1890s and still produce each ball by hand. Their chocolates are time-intensive, costly and rich in craftsmanship, but the lack of a geographical protection means any brand can use the name.
For us, it's obviously dramatic. We process 600 tons of chocolate a year, and the price of chocolate has tripled. We sell in our own 30 stores, and we earn very little. We make very little margin, little or sometimes even nothing. But we hope that cocoa prices will come down and that things will get back on track.
Now, for small makers, it's not just about business, it's about cultural identity. Trade unions have slammed Mondelez for lacking transparency, and many see this as a wake-up call to protect Austria's culinary heritage before it's wrapped up and sold off.
Looking at the camera, smiling.
A pivotal week looms for global markets as investors brace for central bank signals, corporate earnings and rising geopolitical tensions.
From the US Fed's decision to emerging market volatility, here are the key global cues that could redefine sentiment across asset classes. Take a look at our next report for more.
Global financial markets enter a critical week with investor focus spread across central bank decisions, earnings releases, and mounting geopolitical tensions. The US Federal Reserve's upcoming interest rate verdict on May 7th is the central event, as markets seek clarity on the path of monetary easing amid sticky inflation and slowing economic growth. While the Fed is widely expected to hold rates steady, any signals on the pace or scale of future cuts could significantly sway sentiment across equity, bond, and currency markets. The recent weakness in the US dollar and subdued Q1 GDP growth have already heightened sensitivity to Fed commentary. A dovish tone may fuel rallies in emerging markets, while a more cautious stance could trigger volatility across risk assets. Meanwhile, geopolitical tensions remain a concern. After a deadly attack in Kashmir, fears of escalation between India and Pakistan have injected fresh uncertainty into South Asian markets. While localized, the situation adds to a complex geopolitical backdrop that also includes fragile US-China relations and ongoing conflicts in Eastern Europe and West Asia. These risks have the potential to disrupt trade flows and heighten market risk premiums globally. In Asia, Indian equities have remained resilient, buoyed by foreign inflows and optimism over economic reforms. However, earnings from major firms and inflation data from key Asian economies could test that momentum. In Europe, investors will watch the central bank's commentary as the region battles low growth and elevated inflation. On Wall Street, Q1 earnings continue to roll in, with results from major tech and consumer giants likely to influence the broader market tone. Experts say global markets are entering a week where cross-border developments and economic fundamentals will shape investor positioning. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
For the second game in a row, Manchester United scored 3 goals.
But it's the ones they let in that will worry manager Ruben Amorim with a season-defining Europa League semi-final second leg just days away. United conceded 4 times as Brentford kept their European hopes alive.
Amorim had already made it clear the Europa League is the